powder interest, that means they make powder for war, and their subsidiary organizations got together, 12 men high up in the newspaper world, and employed them to select the most influential newspapers in the United States and sufficient number of them to control generally the policy of the daily press. They found it was necessary to purchase control of only 25 of the greatest newspapers. An agreement was reached. The policy of the papers was bought to be paid for by the month as a subscription. An editor was furnished for each paper to properly supervise and edit information regarding the questions of preparedness, militarism, financial policies, and other things of national and international nature considered vital to the interest of the purchasers.
This leads us directly into talking about what we're stewing in today, and whether it's public relations or media control. I wanted to make a reference as we were speaking about what is referred to, I believe, as corporate personhood. One of the few places I think I've ever really seen this discussed in any kind of mainstream avenue was, I believe, the documentary The Corporation, which, if memory serves correct, uses as its jumping off point the idea that, and it introduced this idea and this fact that what you said, those two sentences, made corporations like a person, is what kind of person would that corporation be if you could lay that person down on an analyst couch? What kind of person would they be if you sort of looked them over? And they would ultimately be a sociopath, because they act with complete disregard for anyone else, don't seem to learn from their mistakes, and on and on. And they would be a dick. They would be a nut. They would be someone you wouldn't want to hang out with.
You definitely wouldn't want them feeding, clothing, educating your children, and it's corporate psychopathy. The way corporations are programmed in the operating systems that are the legal documents of that corporation, it is mandated to profit at all cost and to return a profit to the shareholders, and that's it. It doesn't matter if they poison you, it doesn't matter if they kill the environment, global warming, doesn't matter. And in order to fix that, ironically enough, there was an attorney who spent 23 years working for Skadden Arps. His name's Robert Hinckley. He's now retired. And he saw the error of his ways and saw that lawyers are really what's behind all of these little nuances that we can't figure out, because he said, if we were to change the corporate mandate, corporate law, and you put these additional 26 words in, it says corporations must profit, but not at the expense of human or environmental suffering, et cetera, et cetera. These 26 words would directly, because it's an operating system, change the behavior of all these corporations, because at the end of the day, it is greed. There is some evil going on, but it's also just how the corporations are set up to run, because the people who created these corporations years ago in the mandates said, hey, let's make the corporations act as sociopaths so we can use them as proxies, and the people who hide above those corporations and use those corporations against us would be protected and would never meet the guillotine.
If we could make a sort of computer analogy, that those words by a skull and bonesman is essentially bad code. It's malware. And if Hinckley was able to put in this addendum, it would be like it would fix the HTML code. It would fix the malware, the spyware, the thing that's infected you and your brain, if I can use a belabored IT analogy.
That's what a meme is. A meme is a mind virus, right? And so they put this mind virus in to dehumanize people, not to give them the benefit of the doubt. Don't critical think. Go off and shut your mind off. If you hear the words conspiracy or Holocaust or any of these words, just automatically cut people off. And, just know that war is profitable, and keep poisoning yourselves for their profit. And, even though it doesn't make any sense, it makes sense for them. Dollars and cents. It makes money for them. And that's why all the ludicrous actions of the corporations can be explained just by understanding the nature of their self. And it's corporate psychopathy. And then you see it's all run by what makes money for them. And so what makes money for corporations is not what keeps humanity alive. It is not what allows us to enjoy and actually catch happiness and not just pursue it with our families and friends. We need more than what's being given.
Devil's advocate would say, but if you say that they make all the money anyway, then why would they need to do all these things to control this money that they print anyway?
Oh, they use the money. The money's just to control you. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a totally different currency among the elite so they know who each other are. I mean, when you think about the money that they've given us, it's not even worth the paper it's printed on, because nothing is more worthless than a currency that has gone through hyperinflation and has crashed. It turns into wallpaper. I mean, in 1920s in Germany, it took 4 billion Reichmarks or 4 billion marks to buy a glass of beer. That is what hyperinflation does. So it doesn't matter if you are a millionaire or a 20 or 30, $50 million dollar person. We're all equally broke when hyperinflation hits, and they do what they have already planned to do with their currency. That's why they put it here. That's why they created this whole bubble over the past 100 years to drain America of our wealth as Americans has been exported. And we are being left holding a flaming bag of shit, and it's not cool. And we don't have to sit around and do nothing about it. We can get organized. You can get yourself a study group, a list of these 10 books that I'm going to give James at the end of the interview, and you can go and do something about this. But before you do, you have to know the angle they're playing, and you have to understand the rules of their game so that you can go through and circumvent their rules.
We could make the reference right here, and I think we've probably done it before, that ultimately we're dealing with gangsters, and I think you've called them multi-generational serial killers or even sociopaths. If we can reference Goodfellas, when they're running the restaurant and they're essentially just using it as a front to move liquor and drugs and God knows what through, and ultimately when they've run out of all the money they can borrow, beg, or steal, they decide to burn the place down. Once they've looted it and there's nothing else, they go in and burn it down themselves and collect the insurance. It rather feels like that's what's happening to this country right now. The gangsters have just about looted anything left, and they're getting ready to burn the place down and stick us with the bill, those of us still around.
Yeah, totally. It's a group of gang bankers. And what they need to know is that Wall Street's hit its dead end. We're pulling the U-turn. We know how to set up our own currency in this country. We're not going to let foreigners control our own bank. We're going to follow the Constitution and have our own currency printed by our own Congress. And once international banking has broken its trust with the people, they no longer have any power because their entire currency is based on the trust that you give them when you believe in that little piece of paper with their talismans and sigils and all the little esoteric, little hidden things they think they're cool for doing. Well, it's worthless to me. I don't work for money anymore. Thanks for breaking my beliefs. I learned a lot in the last 10 years. That's how I feel about it. It's like, I used to think and I used to hate George Bush. I used to hate these people because I'm like, oh my God, they're so evil. But you know what? I was dumb. I was dumb as a rock. No matter what I thought, I was dumb until George Bush and these neocons and the Illuminati and all these other, however you want to classify these people, Committee of 300. It's just people who print the money, and they have obscene amounts of it, and they have very different needs than you or I. Carl Jung once said the cause of all mental illness is the avoidance of legitimate suffering. And so what that means is people who have billions or trillions of dollars don't go through a whole lot of legitimate suffering every day. They don't hear the word no ever because people around them want their money. So they always hear the word yes. So they're allowed to do whatever they want. And if they want to vaccinate these kids in Africa and give them some sort of thing that sterilizes them or kills them, hey, no big deal. Let's put billions of dollars into that. And that's a great idea because all these people, when you look at it, are all involved in something called eugenics. Everyone from Alexander Graham Bell to the whole Darwin evolution gang to the Harriman family, the Bush family, the Rockefeller family, they all want to sterilize your kids. That's what it's 150-year history that I couldn't believe. Oh my God! Look at the plans.
Well, I have to say that it does so much seem to come back to eugenics, which I believe just roughly translates as good birth, good good genes, good birth, or it's basically the science of building a better baby, essentially.
From eugenics, I got into I checked out. There's all these books and people who've commented on it. And I was like, I didn't believe this. I couldn't believe that these types of things are going on. And you bump into books like Thomas Malthus's work, or The Next Million Years by Charles Galton Darwin, or Julian Huxley had written quite a bit about this, and he goes on to create things called UNESCO and this other interesting organization called the World Wildlife Fund. So the eugenicists create the World Wildlife Fund, and if you were one of the lucky people to see that video this week, their new promotion